Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD bodybuilder, back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about cheat meals. Now, cheat meals are a commonly debated topic in bodybuilding, so today we're going to talk about the pros and the cons for using cheat meals, specifically for fat loss. You may have seen bodybuilders or other athletes taking in these huge cheat meals and talking about it on social media. Is this something that you should be doing? We'll answer that question today. I pulled you guys on my YouTube community tab, and a lot of you guys actually do implement cheat meals, so I wanted to talk about it. Quick outline for today. First, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of using cheat meals. Then we'll talk about whether you should use them in terms of some hard recommendations. And lastly, I'll give you some guidelines on how to implement them if you do decide to take cheat meals. If you've been enjoying my content so far, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get right into it. Now let's start off with the definition. We usually talk about cheat meals in the context of a weight loss phase, and I usually define a cheat meal as a single meal with more relaxed food choices than what you're usually having, and usually with more calories than you would usually have in a meal. All right, so now let's get into the pros and cons of using cheat meals. Now, starting off with the pros, the first and probably biggest pro is that you get a psychological break from dieting. This becomes more of an issue the longer you diet for and the larger your calorie deficit is. However, having a cheat meal can really break up the monotony and give you a break from following a rigid plan. Giving yourself that break might be really important, especially if you're burning out and you might fall off your diet or quit otherwise. Another pro of taking a cheat meal is that it gives you more lifestyle flexibility. In modern culture, a lot of our social events are built around food. And if you have to follow a really strict meal plan, you'll find yourself feeling left out at a lot of social events or end up not going to them. Now, I feel that it's really important to have flexibility in your diet plan because it can really help keep things sustainable in the long run. To go on with a couple of more pros, having a cheat meal may help your subsequent workout. This becomes more of an issue if you've been dieting for a long period of time and you're getting really lean, but some people find that replenishing their glycogen stores when they're really depleted can help with workout performance. This is a bit of an iffy one though, because one cheat meal really doesn't affect things that much in my opinion. The last pro we'll touch on here is that a cheat meal won't affect your calorie balance if you adjust for your total daily macros. Remember that weight loss is all about calories in versus calories out. So as long as you end up creating that calorie deficit by the end of the day or by the end of the week, you're still gonna lose weight. So having a cheat meal won't really affect your weight loss progress as long as you take away those calories from some other time, either before or after the cheat meal. This does, however, have some caveats that we'll talk about in a moment. All right, now let's switch gears and talk about the cons of cheat meals. The first con is that it might throw you off track from your plan, especially if you've been having trouble sticking to your diet. A cheat meal just might be that catalyst that switches you off into a cheat weekend, a cheat week, and the end of your diet. I think there's something to be said for committing to a plan and holding yourself true to it. So sometimes taking those breaks, especially if they're unplanned, might not be the best thing. Another con of cheat meals that's a little bit more practical is that it's difficult to estimate your macros and calories accurately, especially if you're eating out. And this makes it easy to overshoot and might set you back in terms of your calorie goals. Sometimes when people end up buying food or going out to eat for their cheat meals, even if they're good at estimating things, often restaurants will put in extra fat and carb sources into their meals to make things more tasty that you might not notice. And with a few cheat meals throughout the week that overshoot your calorie goals, you might easily find yourself not losing any weight that week. In terms of other cons of cheat meals, in the reverse of what we said in the pro section, where cheat meals may help you with training performance, cheat meals can also hinder your training performance if you end up drawing your calories from your peri-workout nutrition. So if you have a cheat meal with much more calories than your usual intake, you're gonna have to draw those calories from somewhere. And if you end up taking your calories from, say, earlier in the day when you usually work out, you might not be adequately fueled for your workout and your gym performance might suffer. Now, training performance, in my opinion, is a huge consideration when trying to plan your weight loss or bulking strategy, because having a good training stimulus is your best indicator of whether you're actually putting on muscle or retaining muscle for that matter. If you're in a calorie deficit and your training performance is really falling off, you're at a higher risk for actually losing muscle. Next con of cheat meals is that if you take a big cheat meal, it might lead to excessive hunger before or after when you have to take those calories away from other meals. In order to balance out your calories, you might end up starving all day just so you can have that tasty meal out with your friends at night. This leads into my last point in terms of cons of cheat meals, in that they may encourage binging and purging behavior. This is something I want to draw attention to because it can be dangerous. And that's when people have very rigid meal plans, but end up having big cheat meals every once in a while. And then they end up starving themselves to try and make up the calories. This can spiral out of control to a point where it can actually become a medical problem. All right, so now that we've looked at the pros and the cons, let's put everything together to give you some hard recommendations on cheat meals. To jump into things, I'm generally against taking large cheat meals when you're in a fat loss phase. Now note here that I'm talking about large cheat meals as a single meal where your calories are much more than usual. We're not talking about 1 or 2 day refeeds here. I think it's important to get used to following a plan and building up that discipline, especially when your goal is to lose weight. To build on this point, you should try not to give in to your urges and have spontaneous cheat meals. If you are going to do it, you should plan ahead for them, which will make sure that you have a good idea where your calorie balance and macros are before you walk into that restaurant or party, so that you don't go way off plan and set yourself back. It's really easy to undo a few whole days of calorie deficit just with one large meal. Next recommendation about cheat meals is to make them carb heavy. Now here we're talking about carbs rather than fats, because you should be keeping your protein constant. And since they're more readily available for training, they're more likely to help with your gym performance. Next point here is don't go wild with your cheat meals. In fact, a lot of people in the scientific community right now like to talk about these as a free meal rather than a cheat meal, with the distinction here that you're just using this meal to give you a bit more freedom in terms of your food choices and calories, rather than actually cheating on your diet, which you really don't want to get into the habit of doing because it'll erode your discipline. Now, in terms of spontaneous, unplanned cheat meals, if you do fall off plan, just get back on it. Just remember that fat loss takes time and you'll reach your goals eventually as long as you stick to it. The next really important recommendation here is to avoid binge purge patterns of eating. As we talked about earlier, a big danger of cheat meals is that you might condition yourself to starve yourself for a long period of time just so you can have that really high calorie cheat meal. And it can lead to a cycle of disordered eating that eventually becomes an issue. A couple of things to look out for here is that if your cheat meals become uncontrollable, so that means when you're eating you just can't stop yourself, or if you become very emotional about your eating, as in that cheat meal becomes your reward at the end of the day or at the end of the week, then you might be running into issues, and I would recommend not doing that and talking to a doctor if it does become a problem. Lastly, and probably the biggest recommendation overall, is to do what's sustainable for you. The most important thing in the end in terms of our diet and fitness in general is that you stick to your plan to hit your goals over the long term. So if you have an important social event coming up, I think it's totally reasonable to program in a cheat meal so that you can maintain your social connections and make this journey sustainable in the long term. That's all for now, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video and leave me a comment below. I answer every single one of my comments, so you'll definitely hear back from me. In particular, do you use cheat meals and how do you implement them? Let me know below. If you're trying to lose weight and want to pick up some more fat loss tips, check out this playlist where I go over some really easy, actionable strategies that you can implement today to help you lose fat. As you know, I'm all about giving really practical, science-based advice that will actually work in the real world. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you're getting value from my videos, make sure you share my channel with your fitness friends so they can benefit from it too. See you next time.